Hi, welcome into the Breneman and Butt show. It is a huge week. Wow. Huge week.
Massive.
Rivalry week. We got Michigan State, Michigan. Big week for the Nittany Lions because, whoa, wait a second, Wisconsin, they might be the truth. Going on the road. Oregon, Illinois. Oregon, #1 in the AP poll. Wow. Nebraska and Ohio State. It's a bounce back week for both of them. Ohio State lost to Oregon. Of course, we saw what happened Nebraska versus Indiana. And then speaking of Indiana, whoa, they got to play Washington where game day's in town without their starting quarterback. What the heck? And most importantly, it's National Tight End Day on Sunday.
Go.
Forget all the other games. It's National Tight End Day on Sunday. Maybe we should just start there. Do you got your list? We want to do a little top 5 action of tight ends.
I got top 5 tight ends from the Big Ten.
Active tight ends in the NFL.
Active tight ends. Okay. I put a lot of thought into this, Jake. So I'm excited to hear your feedback. Okay. #1, George Kittle.
Wait. Let's go because I'm going to tell you if I disagree with anything because I have Kittle #1. Actually, I have Adam Breneman. This is a sponsored segment. We call it the Breneman top tight end and an NFL list.
I like
sponsored
that.
by you.
My #1 of all time would be Jake Butt, Michigan alumni, NFL journeyman.
#1 injured Big Ten tight ends of all time.
Calling you an NFL journeyman was disrespectful by me.
Butt and Breneman are tied for first place of best injured tight end, most injured Big Ten tight ends. Okay, sorry.
All right, #1, George Kittle. That's easy.
Yes.
#2, I think we're gonna go TJ Hawkinson, Vikings tight end from Iowa. What do you think?
I went Laporta just because, and Hawk is great, but he's coming off an injury.
Yeah.
I totally get it, but the season Laporta had last year, and he's blocking his you-know-what off right now. Whoa. Yeah. I went Laporta 2, Hawk at 3, so I'll say that.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, what do you got?
I had at 3, Pat Freiermuth from Penn State.
Okay.
So where do you have Freiermuth on your list? Okay.
4. So we've just shuffled our 3 right here. So I have Kittle 1. I went Laporta 2, Hawkinson 3, Freiermuth 4. You
Interesting.
went.
So I have Laporta. I have Laporta at 4.
Our top 4 is the same. It's the order.
It's just shuffled. Correct.
Yeah. And then 5.
5. I have Jake Ferguson. I
promise, guys, I have 5.
Is that who you have?
Ferguson. Yeah.
Okay, so the other debate was Noah Fant.
Yes. I think Jake's
I debated him and Jake. I debated putting him and Jake at 5, and I went with Jake instead.
I like Jake. I think Jake's a better tight end right now. Noah is an explosive weapon. I played with him, very fast, but I think Jake is he's a better route runner, a little bit more consistent right now. So, and we can't just have a freaking whole Iowa list here.
I know. It's brutal.
Thanks to Freiermuth from Penn State. I mean, we got some Penn State action in there.
Great game the other night, too, for the Steelers. Jake, what is the reason? I feel like Big Ten tight ends transition so well to the NFL. And the physicality, the offenses that Big Ten teams run, there's a lot of reasons. What do you think is the biggest reason that it's so when a guy like you got a guy like Ferguson or Hawkinson or some of these guys who played well so early in their career when a lot of rookies struggle to adjust to the physicality?
I think one thing that it never gets talked about because we spend so much time talking about 40s or vertical, but the mental side of the game is like the limiting factor for most guys. And when you play tight end, as you know, especially all these guys on the list, they play wide tight end, F tight end. They also effectively play fullback and receiver, slot and outside. So that many guys do not understand how to learn a playbook like that. But I look at Sam Laporta, for example. He was the sole best weapon at Iowa. They lined him up everywhere as the solo receiver by himself, in the slot, on the ball, off the ball, fullback, pass protection in the backfield. So those guys already have a level of comfort in terms of the art of studying and learning a playbook inside and out. So when they do take the field, the coaches have a chance to put them in any position to succeed. I think that's the biggest piece of it.
Yeah, because the more you can do at tight end, the better. And half the battle for these guys is the mental part of it, because you got to learn so many different spots in the offense, and you got to be offensive lineman, but also a receiver, also a running back in protection, as you mentioned. So the faster those guys can pick it up, the better you are. Your versatility as a tight end is really the best part. And these
Exactly.
guys are able to do it. Since it's National Tight End Week, let's give a shout out to Tyler Warren, best tight end in the country at Penn State. Had to throw that in there.
Tyler Warren is playing great. How about we talk about that honestly? Because I'd love to have both of them on the team, Tyler and Colston. I
Yeah.
think right now Colston is a better route runner than Tyler. I
Yeah.
think Tyler's better after the catch. And has certainly been more productive and a better blocker right now. What do you like about Tyler's game specifically?
Man, I mean, I just said it, the versatility that Tyler brings to an offense. I think really at tight end, you have to be able to do a lot of different things, or else you're just a big, slow wide receiver, right? If
Mm-hmm.
all you can do is run routes, there's no point to putting a tight end in the game. But Tyler, when he's
That's
in
a
the
great point.
game, the defense has no idea what he's going to do. So is he going to be the tight end in line blocking a 9 tech on power or on inside zone? Is he going to be the off-ball tight end who's either blocking on a split zone, kicking out the D end, or running into the flat? Is he going to play wide out? Is he going to play quarterback? Is he going to quarterback sneak it? Is he going to play wildcat? Is he throwing the football? His versatility is what changes the game, where everyone has to account for where he is on the field. And that's really his best trait. Like Tyler Warren is not some freak of an athlete. Like, and I don't want to take away from his athleticism, but like he's going to test well at the combine. I mean, he's not going to break. He's not going to test like Mike Gesicki did at the combine,
No.
but he brings so much to the game: physicality, versatility, being smart, and how to like where he can line up, the things they can do with him. I think is what really makes him special. Colston Loveland is just as good of a natural tight end as Tyler Warren is. I
Mm-hmm.
just think that Tyler brings more to the table from a versatility standpoint. Like some of the things Tyler does, Michigan wouldn't ask Colston Loveland to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the quarterback stuff, some of the pet throw games, some of the run game stuff when he plays wildcat quarterback. So I do think Colston's going to be a 15-year NFL player. He brings he's got such a good skill set from athleticism, body control, hands, everything you want in a big time tight end that'll play a long time in the NFL.
I think you're spot on. I mean, the versatility, it's impossible to argue the fact that this guy's snapping the ball, quarterback, handing it off throw. I mean, he's Tyler, it's unbelievable. He does everything a tight end should do, and then has about 50% more in his bag of stuff
Yeah.
that's almost unheard of. Colston's a phenomenal route runner. A
Yeah.
really, really good. He's the best route runner on Michigan's team. Great
Yeah.
hands, but that's a fun conversation. And a lot to get to this week. And there's a few ways to look at this. I laid out all the other games, and I forgot about the fact we have Rutgers versus USC as well. I
Yeah.
almost want to, instead of just doing our normal X's and O's, I almost want to just ask you, what's your feeling and impression of the current landscape of college football? I have some opinions about it, but this has been a insane year for a number of reasons. Where are
Yeah.
you at with where we
Man,
are at?
I was thinking about this. It's a good question. With all the uncertainty in college football right now, I mean, I'm talking on the field uncertainty. Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty off the field with NIL, transfer portal, but like, listen, we're playing football right now. So let's talk about football. The week to week ups and downs for different programs. I mean, I just think about like a team like USC. Think about week one beating LSU. USC's back, defense is elite, and then they lose a bunch of close games, and now not a top 25 team. A lot of negativity around the program. Just think about like all the different programs, even in the Big Ten, that we've seen have the ups and downs throughout this season. A team like Michigan, there is just a lot of not knowing how teams are going to perform every single week. And I do think part of it is because these rosters in the offseason are completely different every single year. Like there's not as much of really the AP poll preseason doesn't matter. Like no one's seen these teams play. It's not like you have a lot of guys coming back. It's not like old college programs used to be where you have guys that are sophomores becoming juniors and juniors become seniors. Like it's a completely new team. I mean, think about a team like Indiana. So many new players, a new quarterback in Curtis Rourke. We had no clue what Indiana would be like. And that's part of the reason that we've seen so much chaos at the top of college football. I mean, if you would have told me that going into week 9, Oregon would be 1 and Penn State would be 3 in the country, I would have never thought that was that was possible, right? But just because I said there's too many good teams in the SEC, but The good thing about the Big Ten so far is that the best teams have continued to win games, and the SEC's got no one with that no undefeated teams, and Penn and Big Ten's got Penn State, got Ohio State, got Oregon. So like there is the top of the Big Ten has continued to play well. Now as we go down the stretch, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play each other. But again, you look at a team like Penn State, they only play Ohio State. They don't have to play Oregon, don't have to play Michigan. So the way it works out for a lot of teams is going to be interesting to see too, and how that schedule kind of helps and then hurts some of these teams.
And they don't have to play Iowa. Talk about
Yeah.
lucky. Who wants to play Iowa right now?
Yeah.
My big takeaway is there is an absolute premium on coaching because
Yeah.
the NFL, everyone's talented. That's why anyone can win on any given week. But at the college level, not too long ago, back in our time, teams and coaches and programs could hoard talent. There was, I look at some of the best teams where they would have 4 and 5 stars sitting on their bench, not playing, that had a chance to develop and grow.
Yeah.
That's not the case these days. Like now, if you're a 4-star and you're on Alabama's bench, Tennessee's going to call you and say, hey, you can come start for us right now and we'll pay you more. So like the talent's been dispersed. And then off of that, the key is because of player mobility, you have got to be a great leader. You have to install a culture. You have got to be a great teacher. That's one thing that's extremely underrated. Football's complex. Do you have clean, clear systems? And do you have the ability with your staff to teach those systems? Because there's so much roster turnover every year. And then can you scout talent? That's another piece. I look at Cignetti. Took a ton of guys from JMU. Looked at Curtis Rourke, right? Rumor has it it reminded him of Phillip Rivers, who's Cignetti has a history with. So he's scouting players as well. And then when it all comes together, that's what you see as a football team. You can't just get by having more talent than anyone. Cignetti's the perfect example to say this guy, what makes a good coach, he checks every box and then the results follow. I think that's healthy for college football. I understand some coaches are probably losing sleep over this because it's already a demanding job. And now you add in all these factors. But look, the cream rises to the top, right? That's what they say. And I look at Brett Bielema, another example. He's been a great coach. But he just never has had a program with elite level resources. I understand Wisconsin, right? And Arkansas, but look at what Illinois is doing right now. And it wasn't too long ago, 2022, they were in the playoff conversation as well. Like this, there's a premium on coaching. When you look at all the top teams in the country and the teams that are making noise, the constant is coaching, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you make a great point about kind of the turnover on the rosters and how that impacts everything. College football and for coaches, the most important thing now is not necessarily talent development anymore, because when you develop your players, a lot of them just leave. It is all about the talent acquisition piece and talent evaluation. Can you evaluate talent and get guys that can come in and win immediately and play right away? You're not all that worried anymore about the freshman that comes in who's going to be a starter in 3 years, because you can get someone new from the portal who you've seen done it on who you've seen play on film and say he can play when the lights get bright, instead of relying on the guy on practice squad who's going to become that in 3 years. And half the time the guy on practice squad transfers because he wants more money. So it's all about college football has already been about talent acquisition more than talent development. Now, even more so now, I'd say it's like 90-10, 90% talent acquisition and evaluation versus 10% actually developing that talent, because it's all about winning right away. But Jake, we got some big games this weekend.
Let's do it.
I think we start. I want to hear your take on the Michigan State game. What are you looking for?
Critical. Look, this game, what's interesting is I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, so I know Ohio State, Michigan, right? This is one of the most underrated rivalries in college football because there's it's what we love about football, an underlying sense of spite and bitterness and hatred. And it's going to be a 60-minute backyard brawl, a fight. That makes for a good product. Off of that, to support this even more, you know what decides this game? The battle in the trenches. 48 of the last 54 winners in this matchup have also won the rushing battle. So whichever team runs for more yards, history tells us is going to win this game. What's most interesting of all, because I know we got to run through games here. This is a new chapter in this rivalry. Okay, we've seen
Yeah.
great coaches, D'Antonio, of course, Jim Harbaugh most recently, but now it's the Jonathan Smith era for the Spartans. It's the Sharon Mora era for the Wolverines. This game is so critical for one of those coaches for their early identity to be of a coach that wins versus his rivals. Like, just think about what that means. That's what's at stake more than anything this weekend. One subtle thing I'm thinking about too, Adam, it's a
Mhm.
night game, a late kickoff. Jonathan Smith was a prior head coach, so he's experienced how he wants to manage these days. For Sharon Moore, I think this is a big piece because it's going to be a long, emotional day. You don't want to be
Yeah.
exhausted when you take the field. Like, Sharon's going to have to find a way to keep his team present and calm and rested so they're ready to go when kickoff happens
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, one of the biggest hires of the offseason, kind of an underrated move by Jonathan Smith at Michigan State, was hiring defensive coordinator Joe Rossi from Minnesota, uh,
Agreed.
who had year after year of going against Iowa and these other programs, and it paid off with their game against Iowa last weekend. So I think Jonathan Smith is building that program the right way. Big win for Michigan State last week. And you're right, new chapter of this rivalry. And again, Sharon Moore could really use a win in this game right now. I mean, he
Yeah.
could really use it just to get kind of the train back on the tracks at Michigan. Jake, the Penn State Wisconsin game is a sneaky good one. It wasn't one that I had circled on my calendar, preseason, but now it's kind of like this is a big game.
Yeah.
Penn State has Ohio State in 2 weeks, so very easy to overlook a team like Wisconsin. Uh, very easy to look forward, coming off a bye week, and every game now for Penn State's a must-win game at number 3 in the country. And then you have Wisconsin, who everyone wanted to sleep on Luke Fickell. Everyone. Everyone wanted to say it wasn't going to work. What's wrong? Wisconsin's not playing Wisconsin football. I remember being on a TV show early this season and like, man, Wisconsin just looks soft. Luke Fickell can't figure it out. Well, year 2 of Cincinnati is when Luke Fickell flipped the script there. And now Wisconsin, 5 games left in the season, they're 5-2.
Yeah.
And their defense the last 3 weeks has let up a combined 16 or 17 points. I just saw
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So Wisconsin is playing really, really good football. And this is going to be a close game. I mean, Penn State's going to have another close one here. They got to find a way to win on the road. And then they got Ohio State next week.
They found their identity. Like, one of the big
Yeah.
issues for Luke Fickell is like it's been a year and a half of like wondering what's this identity. Under Paul Chryst, it was 22 personnel,
Yeah.
big personnel and running the football, and then you bring in Phil Longo to implement the air raid, and they just felt like they were a program in transition until they've just decided. And Ches Malusi decided to take care of his health. He stepped away from the team, so in
Yeah.
comes Tawi Walker. They double and triple his carries. They've been running the living hell out of the football. They got 2 tackles that are 6'8", 6'7", 315. Great Joe Brunner, their left guard, is a beast.
Yeah.
They have found their identity by running the football, and the defense has responded as well. Their trench play has increased. What's the key for Penn State? Because, man, it was a great win. You beat Illinois. Great. Illinois is a
Yeah.
great team. Then you go on the road and you win that one versus USC. This game this weekend is huge. Again, Wisconsin not being ranked, I think people may overlook how good they've been these past 3 weeks. What's the key this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is Drew Aller has to not turn the football over. I mean, he threw 3 picks, really 2, plus an interception on a Hail Mary against USC. Aller has to take care of the ball and then combine that with still being able to throw the football and push it down the field. So that's the biggest challenge for any quarterback. How do you push the ball down the field without turning it over? And Drew has shown even in the late part of that USC game that he can do that he can take care of the ball and make those big throws. But he's got to cut out the turnovers because that plays right into how Wisconsin wants to play this game. They want to create turnovers, control the clock, and you let their defense really dominate. So big test here for I'd say one of the toughest defenses they'll face this season so far for Penn State. So, and then also Penn State struggled to run the football against USC. So the best way to protect your quarterback and to help him push the ball down the field is to run the football well. And you think about Drew, and I just said his interceptions in 2-3 last game against USC. But a lot of I think one of them came on 3rd down and long. Another one I think came on 2nd and long, or 2nd or 3rd and long. So that's happening because Penn State wasn't able to run the ball well. Katron
Mm-hmm.
Allen ran for under 60 yards. Nick Singleton didn't get anything going, averaged like 2 yards a carry against USC.
Yep.
So Penn State has to establish the run to put themselves in a good third down, second down situations where Drew doesn't have to try to do too much and force it down the field. And then that's when turnovers happen.
Yeah, you're right. Running the football is going to be key because Wisconsin faced, Kyle Monangai and bottled him up. I understand Purdue and Northwestern, but they've been stout against the run. Okay, no, real quick. I know we got to run here in a second. Bounce back week for Nebraska, but it's also a bounce back week for Ohio State after that loss. And then Coach Harbaugh would always say the antidote to a loss is a win. You want to wash your mouth out and get a win. What a big matchup. What are you looking for in that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the anytime you have the bounce back kind of game, it's to see how both teams play. And I mean, it's similar when you look at like how do they play after critical errors? Well, how does a team play after they lose a game? How does a team play after that? I want to see Will Howard in this game. After he made the mistake that he made at the end of that game with Oregon, where he didn't manage it well. He didn't play all that well at the end. Again, played well during the game, but in that final moment, kind of was a laughing stock when he slid and let the timer off the clock and didn't give his team a chance. So I want to see how Will Howard bounces back. And then for Nebraska, like I still think Nebraska's defense can be legit. Now the issue for Nebraska against Indiana was like their defense all year. Nebraska's was great against the run, and then Indiana hangs 5 rushing touchdowns on them. So Nebraska has to get back to playing solid run defense. Ohio State wants to run the football with Quinshon Judkins, with Henderson, and open up then the play action game for Will Howard. So if Nebraska can stop the run, they'll have a chance in this game. But I mean, Jake, I see this game being an Ohio State blowout. I from what we saw from Nebraska against Indiana, I look at Nebraska and Indiana. I don't see a big talent difference on those teams, but Indiana is just like that much better coached that game. More prepared that game. I see Ohio State coming in here and really, at home against Nebraska, really dominating this one.
I was shocked to see Nebraska's defense. I still think that last week was an outlier more than we should change our perception of Nebraska's defense. I believe that's an outlier, but I agree. The challenge is Ohio State's offensive system and offensive philosophy very similar to Indiana, so it's going to be tough to stop. One more game real quick. Illinois, Oregon. Oregon going to be heavily favored in this one. They're now number 1 in the AP poll. What's the key? How does Illinois come out there and keep this one close and maybe win?
So I was thinking about this. It's like, congrats, Illinois. You beat Michigan. You're now a top 20 team. Your only loss is in a competitive game against Penn State. And your reward is you get to see the number 1 team in the country
on the road. Yeah.
On the road. So, I mean, for Illinois, listen, I love Luke Altmaier. He's exactly what you want at Illinois. Tough. He can run. Most importantly, doesn't turn the football over. 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. Illinois is back. And their defense has been playing great. I love the way they rally to the football and play on defense, and they take risk and bring a lot of pressure. So I'm excited to see how Illinois plays in this game. And I think that they'll match up pretty well against Oregon in the trenches. I'm concerned with their ability to stop Oregon on the perimeter and what Oregon wants to do, get the ball in space, let Dylan Gabriel, throw it around a little bit. So, but another big game in the Big Ten that, I mean, man, can you imagine if Illinois finds a way to pull this one out? I mean, Illinois is a top 10 team in the country at that point. Right. So just crazy how wide open this thing really could become in the Big Ten.
Yeah, for Illinois, they're not an elite defense. So they need to do something to tip the scales in their favor. They've been great at forcing turnovers, top 3 in forced turnovers on the season amongst the conference. So I think that's the key. And the flip side is Dylan Gabriel on that offensive line. It seems like they've kind of turned the page. They've been playing clean football. So that'll be fun to watch. But all right, man, busy weekend. Good luck to your Nittany Lions. I'm excited to watch that one. Safe travels to your games, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, man. See you next week.